So this is Ignite's first. We're gonna have a sibling pairing. We're gonna sample the. Are you the younger brother?
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
The younger brother, and then we're gonna go to the older brother later. But we were talking about this, and he said, I think this is advice from your brother. It's better to sound incoherent than apologetic.
Yeah.
So just go with that.
Okay, great. I'm going to talk about history. This is good. I can't even see anybody. I'm going to talk about history. And imagine if literature was approached like history with just stupid timelines. Like Harry Potter would be so boring, right? It would be like 3 sentences in a textbook, and no one would care. Everybody gets hung up in history with all the stupid details of who are the names and what date happened. Every single history test I ever took, 75% of it was about dates, which is the least important aspect of the history. History is about people. So I'm going to talk to you really quick about the Punic Wars, which probably none of you have ever heard of, but are actually super, super interesting. They happened in the Mediterranean. There's Rome versus Carthage. And you know where Rome is, and you don't know where Carthage is, and there's a reason for that, but I won't spoil the ending. And they start in Sicily. Some Carthaginians look over at this town, and they go in and they say, hey, what if we went in and we killed all the men, and then we could take their families and instant families? So they go in and they kill all the husbands and fathers, and they assume the role of husband and father of the man that they killed. So imagine that your new dad, your stepdad, is actually the psychopath that just killed your real dad, and now he's with your mother. So that's the kind of reality that we're living with in the ancient world, which I think is rather interesting. And then the Romans look at this and they say, do you see what the Carthaginians just did? Let's do that too. So they go in and they do the same thing. And this is eventually sparks war between Carthage and Rome. It sort of just leads up to it. And there's a guy at the end of the Carthaginian War who sort of gets the short end of the stick. His name was Hamilcar Barca. And he is a fascinating character because he raises a couple of sons called the Lion's Brood. And he teaches them to hate Rome. And he makes them swear an oath that they will destroy Rome. And one of his sons is a guy named Hannibal. Now, maybe you've heard of Hannibal. He is not a cannibal. Most people know of him because he had elephants and he crossed the Alps, which is probably the least impressive thing that he did. It is impressive because it's a crazy natural barrier. He lost half of his army doing it. But he's a fascinating character because he is probably top 3 greatest generals of antiquity. He's brilliant. He goes to Rome and he's there for 15 years. He fights only really 3 battles because Rome is so scared of him because he's so brilliant. And we're going to talk about that last battle really quick. It's the Battle of Kenny. I know it looks like Can, but it's Kenny. I don't know why. But the Battle of Kenny squares off. It's the last battle, major battle that happens. And the Romans pack up. Well, let me tell you really quick. The Roman army is run by politicians. Imagine Pelosi is in Afghanistan running the troops on the ground, showing them how it's done, and like George Bush is in Iraq, and Obama is like, I don't know, running around shooting people. Like that's how it was. Every Roman group, whatever. Anyway, so they had these consuls that they elected every year, 2 consuls, and if they were both at the same location, they took turns commanding every other day. And they're all politically motivated. So imagine that. This is an interesting system. So the Romans square off with about 100,000 guys, and the Carthaginians have half that number, or less than half, depending on who you read. And they like, okay, we're just going to make a battering ram, and we're going to go in and just demolish these guys, you know? Long story short, Hannibal takes his half the number of guys and surrounds the Romans in a brilliant move that no one in history has ever been able to repeat. It's incredible. And what happens if you're put yourself in the Roman soldier position and you're in the middle of 100,000 guys, and all of a sudden the pressure behind you to move forward stops because Hannibal's cavalry just attacked from behind, and you have no idea what's going on. All you hear around you are sorry, this is going to get gory, not all history is like that, but all you hear around you is the screams of your countrymen getting hacked to bits by the same kind of people that would go kill the fathers in a town and marry the women that they just murdered the husbands of. It's crazy. When the Carthaginians get to the center of the battle, I mean, you imagine the fear that you go through for 8 hours, because war today is like, oh, you know, you shoot, the guy dies, whatever. But back then it was like, I'm Manson and I'm going to hack you to death. They found people in the middle of that group that had dug holes in the ground, stuck their heads in, and filled it in with dirt to kill themselves because they were so frightened. That's what history is like. History is crazy. It's insane, and it's barbaric, and it's nuts, and we get caught up on all these stupid details. It's these stories and these human experiences that are so fascinating. Check out a podcast. It's called Hardcore History. It's by Dan Carlin. It's absolutely fascinating. I think it's available online, but go check it out. He's got a three-part series on the Punic Wars, and that's just a little taste of the crazy stuff that goes on during the Punic Wars. So please check it out. Enjoy.